Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Wade, CTO with Itential. I'm joined today by Atif and Guru from Alkira and S&P Global. We're here today talking about a partnership between Itential and Alkira we're proud of, and we're with our joint customer, Guru from S&P Global. So with that, maybe a quick introduction, Atif.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with Chris and Guru. I'm Atif Khan. I'm CTO and co-founder of Alkira.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here again. This is Guru Prasad Ramamurthy, Head of Global Network and Infrastructure at S&P Global.
Awesome. So we'll get into it. We're super excited about this partnership. Maybe to get started, Atif, you can give a quick introduction of who Alkira is.
Sure, Chris. That's a great question to start with. So I'll just go briefly over why we started Alkira, when we started, and just a 30-second overview of what we do. So we started this company to address the challenges and complexities which were associated with networking in cloud-centric and hybrid IT environments. So what we did, we built a global networking platform which is available on demand and consumed as a service. And we'll go into more details as we proceed, as we go through this webinar. The main thing is it's on demand, global, and it's consumed as a service. It's available as a service. So I'll provide more details. It provides a one-way or unified way to connect and manage networks across, I would say, clouds, across regions, and on-prem environments. At the same time, it ensures consistent security policies and compliance across these diverse environments. And obviously, networking in this day and age is not about just connecting, providing connectivity from one endpoint to another endpoint. You have to secure all of it. There are many other networking and security services that you have to make sure that you offer and you support. So we'll go into some of those details as we go along.
Awesome. And I'll just give a quick Itential intro. So we're excited to see technologies like this emerge. We created Itential with the thought that networking was going to be programmable 9 years ago. So here we are. We're having networking turning into software. We're going to talk about multi-cloud, and that brings a whole scope of challenges. So we've had many years of innovation in networking, and programmability is expected today. So we're excited to kind of share how these solutions work together. But maybe first, Guru, you can give a little bit of background on the context for S&P Global, and we'll get into some of the challenges.
Chris, thank you so much. I want to introduce the company, and then we will introduce the use cases and the partnership that we are working with Itential and Alkira. With that, I'll get started, right? S&P Global is a leading provider of independent ratings, benchmarks, analytical, and data for capital and commodity markets. We are a $12 billion revenue company with 45,000 customers worldwide, working from 150 countries across the globe. To serve such a big customer landscape in 150 countries, we have 37,000 employees working from 80 different offices, leveraging thousands of our applications hosted in 50 on-prem locations, 4 different multi-cloud providers, providing that essential intelligence to keep the markets moving. Think about a day in a life for all of us. The markets has to keep moving. The financial services and financial markets needs intelligence in order to make decisions. In order to make that decision with conviction, S&P Global provides that intelligence and data and the analytics and the benchmark needed for these many customers, and our employees work globally to empower these customers with necessary data. And infrastructure behind the scenes that is empowering these many employees is a significantly huge, and it's multi-cloud. It's a combination of on-prem, and it's a combination of automation. And we have about over 100 agile teams working globally, serving these customers, releasing brand new features. We have about over thousands of infrastructure specialists and security specialists working to help protect the brand and continue to keep the company at pace.
So it sounds pretty simple. So maybe we can go through some of the challenges and where we think what's the typical enterprise infrastructure landscape look like?
Well, that's a great segue into what a large enterprise look like. You take any large enterprise today, either it is S&P Global or somebody of our size or even bigger than that. What you're seeing in the picture on the right side is something very unique, very common, and pretty much followed as a blueprint in any large enterprises. The reason that everybody got here is a combination of both organic architectures and inorganic adoption of technologies, because as things proliferated, on-prem become cloud, cloud becomes SaaS, and the services become even more consumable. Every single technology departments had different strategies to accelerate into the digital infrastructure landscape. It could be an identity stack, it could be a networking stack, or it could be a server and storage stack. Everybody said we wanted to move into this digital infrastructure, which is a big landscape, but the adoption and the competition in the market is huge, big. But by doing different strategies, it completely shifted the user experience. As apps went into the cloud, the users connecting to the cloud is changing. As apps went into the SaaS, the users started changing. During the pandemic, the experience of the users even significantly shifted. The digital infrastructure of the past do not provide the capability to serve the user experience of today. And that's a challenge that every enterprise is facing. And to help those user experience, enterprises try to say, let's do automation, let's do DevOps, and let's do net DevOps and DevSecOps and whatnot. And they built large DevOps teams to follow this infrastructure as a code concept, trying to toolchain every single open source component. It could be Ansible, Terraform, Jenkins, Chef, anything that could matter. But they try to build this high focus on infrastructure as a code concept. And if you see in large enterprises, you have big DevOps team trying to code this whole digital infrastructure. And the challenge is the maintenance of the code, the maintenance of the open source platform. And then as things proliferated, as things become cloud and SaaS, the architectures become even more flexible and even more non-standardized, which led to the non-standardized hybrid cloud infrastructure integrations. And also, as things become complex, security team said we have to start bolting security in every nook and corner as possible to protect the company, to protect the assets, to protect our people and brand and whatnot. As you can see in the picture, there is a security for network, identity, server, storage, SaaS. There is so many security products in the market out there, which is used as bolts and bells and whistles to basically protect this digital infrastructure. And this is leading into the cost, the complexity in the digital infrastructure, and the maintenance of automation is continues to be the ongoing challenge in delivering the speed and agility to our users. Yes.
And Atif, you're in the middle of this. What do you see from Guru and your other customers?
Yeah, so this is a great slide, and we see exactly the same thing at majority of the large enterprises. As Guru is mentioning, services are now, they're moved into the cloud. They have SaaS, and they're not just in one region. They're spread across the globe. So you could have some services in Europe and some services in Asia, depending on the services, depending on the clouds, depending on the data centers, like what's running where. So bringing all of this together nowadays is the key, and simplifying all of this connectivity from the network perspective, making sure that it's all secure, has become like the key for these large enterprises. And I would say the most important thing is the agility, because nowadays, like Guru and S&P or any of these large organizations, they're able to bring up these applications or these services like within a very short period of time. And since it's not like these are not limited to just the data centers, they can be anywhere across the globe. So now the network also needs to be agile, and it needs to be able to provide not just the connectivity but the security to connect to those services, so that you maintain the user experience, because you cannot wait for the network for days or months for the network to provide like connectivity when the service is up for so quickly. So all of this needs to come together. So it's putting a lot of pressure on the network side, and these large enterprises are looking at companies like us to solve those problems or provide platforms which they are able to leverage to address those challenges.
Yeah, sometimes we say, our network exploded on the internet, in the sense that we used to have a handful of data centers and a handful of WAN sites, and now you look at a drawing like this. What is our network? At the end of the day, we have to connect application owners or users to their compute, and it could be distributed across a whole bunch of these areas. So I guess maybe Guru, like who are the ultimate users of this infrastructure? Because from an Itential standpoint, we like to think that a lot of this infrastructure is traversing many boundaries. And if we're going to offer same-day service to our end users, automation and orchestration is key. So you might have domain tools, as you said before, but ultimately we need to tie all this together. So like who is the user that's asking for changes in the infrastructure, and maybe something about like what the velocity of those changes are.
Absolutely right. In the beginning, when I introduced S&P Global, you heard I said we have about over hundreds of Scrum teams working hard in a safe and agile practices to deliver code in a CI/CD fashion at speed to our customers. And as you all know, the software development world over the last 15 years have evolved to become a full CI/CD with the speed at which that they can move. But it's not the common in the networking world, while it has always been in the places where we have to catch up with them. But those business teams are our drivers asking us, you have to become like a software world and treat infrastructure as a code, services as a code, and then bring it as a service to on top of them. If I simply classify the types of users, I have a user who's a pure play developer who wants to see everything in code way, which means taking a service, abstracting it as an API, and giving it as a code to them so that they could add it to their pipeline. I have another type of user who wants to say, listen, I don't want to waste time in your coding. You finish all your coding, just give it to me as a true blue white glove service so that I could just do full automation and then put it under a nice ServiceNow platform or any other platform and give it to them as a service. The third person is basically the end user itself who is doing the continuous CI/CD services. So we have hundreds of Scrum team working across the globe trying to deploy code 24 hours in a window. The expectation is to this infrastructure should be agile enough to consume services that they're asking around the clock across all multi-cloud providers, on-premise and offices.
Yeah, and I think a theme I'm hearing, you said net DevOps earlier, you said DevSecOps. I made a mention about how things are kind of, unconverging across the internet. Is I think whether it's Alkira or Itential, we're talking about how do we reconverge this, right? How do we build strong integrations so that the complexity in the infrastructure that's needed by the business is not fully exposed to our end users, right? Because if the public clouds train them on anything, they want self-service, they want ease of use, they want consumability. So I think for the definition of the problem in the business, we need to take advantage of all these things. And modern networking infrastructure, software or hardware, should be extremely programmable, so we can apply these operational paradigms and ultimately offer a great service to our end users, whether they be application owners or end users. So,
Right.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about the partnership that supports this, but maybe a little bit of the definition of the problem, Guru, as you see it.
Sure. Just to piggyback on the previous slide, think about an enterprise in that state. And if you simplify that large digital infrastructure into small circles and start visualizing this both from a problem statement as well as from a business case perspective, why we are doing this, why is this partnership and integration is needed. Think about the digital infrastructure picture that we just showed. How many wires and how many connectivities and how many configurations have to go in place in order to enable all the upstream customers and the downstream services. When I say upstream customers, to deliver services to our business and business teams to have the agility and speed, and our downstream services such as it could be SOC or information security or workplace services in order for them to consume our services. Network is in the middle, and we are responsible for providing services to our upstream customer and our downstream teams. So doing an integration on an unconverged network is a biggest problem statement, and that's something that every large enterprise are trying to tackle today. You have a firewalls, you have load balancers, you have routers, switches, cloud, and all these are available in cloud as well as a cloud native services. So you want your developer to consume a load balancer in the on-prem, a similar load balancer available as a service inside the hyperscaler as well. So they're expecting, I want both of this to converge. So having that convergence and creating that convergence is a biggest challenge, and we continue to do that effectively, and that's what we are trying to solve. Now, coming to automation, we talked about how large enterprises are setting up this large scale DevOps teams and trying to build every single component that we have mentioned in the screen by themselves. It could be from writing a workflow, writing a user portal, writing a rules engine, building a full CI/CD pipeline is a factory worth of exercise, right? And you need to have skill sets and talent and ability to maintain those technology and the code and the services throughout the life cycle to build a full suite of automation. What at S&P Global we are trying to translate all of this problem through the partnership of Alkira and Itential by bringing two large universal solutions that can take us from an unconverged network to a fully converged network using Alkira, and doing open source automation to a full low code, no code automation using Itential. And it takes time to get there, and we are already there, and we have had years worth of partnership with both Alkira and Itential. And for every enterprise out there, when you take this transformation journey, give the time to get to this transformation so that you can adopt some of these universal platforms.
Exactly, and I'll just add a little bit to it also. From the traffic or from the data perspective, now, as we mentioned earlier, also that your data is everywhere. It's not just in the data centers. You have apps running everywhere. So now, from a network perspective, agility is one thing, but also you need to optimize the traffic flows as well, because your users are everywhere also, and they're not necessarily just sitting in one building or just few buildings. They're coming from everywhere. So your traffic flows, you cannot take like a non-optimal, path from that perspective, or backhaul the traffic to data center and then to the cloud where the application is running. So that adds like a lot of latency and stuff, and that directly, impacts the user experience. So from a network perspective, network has to be agile enough, network has to be flexible enough, that it takes into consideration all of those things, and make sure that the user experience is not impacted, and you get like the lowest latency path to your destination. So all in all, I think networking has changed, or needs to change from a deployment perspective going forward, because just deploying the way we used to deploy networks doesn't cut it. And as we mentioned, all of this needs to happen like now, like when somebody needs a network to accommodate their needs, it needs to happen right away. It cannot just be that, oh, I have to order like circuits, or I have to order hardware to make it happen. So all in all, I would say it's all changing. It's all changed, and the needs from the requirements from the customers are very different today as compared to what they were a few years ago.
Yeah, maybe I'll start with a compliment in the sense that, on the right-hand side here, we have Alkira plus Itential, but we talk about it a lot in the sense that we expect modern networking solutions to come with programmable APIs. And from an Itential standpoint, we work very hard so we can consume those APIs. We expect two modern platforms to work well together. We don't expect Guru to be hiring SIs to integrate our two tools, right? So the integration took minutes and hours. We work together on what those joint kind of pre-built or solutions should look like. But the expectation here is and that's maybe a little bit of hope here, in the sense that when I look at a lot of the open source automation, all automation is great. A lot of times we automate for ourselves. It takes us a long time to do stuff, so we automate that. But integrating these automations together to drive that end-to-end process and connectivity from app to user to application has sometimes been a challenge. So we've been fairly limited and siloed in our automation effects. So really taking some of these modern networking concepts and applying kind of modern orchestration with automation really allows us to have and provide our end users, robust real-time consumable infrastructure. I think it's probably worth noting it wasn't like a huge effort between us, but we are super proud of it. And at the end of the day, the effect here is, and I think it's one that the market should expect and drive towards, is that when they consume modern networks and they look at orchestration and automation, these things should work, more out of the box, and we should be focused on the business rules and outcomes and not focused on, integration like we have in the past.
I'll just add one more point, right? The out-of-the-box capability and the canvas that both Alkira and Itential has built is a game changer to us. Right? Think about going and managing hundreds of VPCs in a cloud-native AWS console to what we do in Alkira in a single canvas. We can clearly visualize how the network is orchestrated, how it is connected, and when to do what conditions. And think about trying to automate a network. And today at S&P Global with Itential partnership, we're not writing code. We have the canvas, and all we are doing is pre-integrated conditions are joined together based on our needs, and that canvas is driving the outcome of it, which Chris and team are heavy lifting in the back end to bring that pre-integrated capabilities to S&P Global, and we are able to put all of them together and deliver it as a full service to our customers.
Now that's great to hear, Guru, and thanks for sharing this. And I'll just add a little bit to it also, that from the management perspective and then from the operations perspective, networks, there's stuff that goes wrong every now and then, and it's bound to happen. It's software, like any software will have issues. So you need like full capabilities from troubleshooting and how to do all your day two operations. All of those need to be built into these environments, because troubleshooting, when something goes wrong, how quickly you're able to identify the problem and how quickly you're able to fix the problem, I think that is the key. Those have improved in recent years in networking products. And we take pride in our platform also, that we built this platform with day two operations as one of the key focuses of ours.
Absolutely.
Makes a lot of sense. So maybe we can get into a little bit more of the specifics as far as like, when you have branches and data centers and you're trying to connect to a multi-cloud environment, like how does that work, Guru?
Sure. I would like to do a little bit of recap, right? We talked about the digital infrastructure landscape of where the enterprises are today, with hundreds and thousands of connectivity, different infrastructure components, different security components. Everything is tightly bolted, and the infrastructure is constantly proliferating, and it's evolving constantly, right? And then we talked about how the integrations have to be done both within the infrastructure side and within the automation side to glue all of them. And this is a meat of the whole story, right? How we solved this complexity and challenges at S&P Global, right? I'll start with a simple analogy. Um, Alkira is a super glue for us in the middle of a large hybrid network. Like I described before, we have about 80 branch offices, 50 on-prem locations, and then 4 multi-cloud providers, over thousands and thousands of applications in AWS, Google Cloud, and Microsoft. Think about doing something like this at scale in the old architecture way that we just showed is going to even more make the environment complex and challenging. So we brought that super glue technology to basically stick everything together and then fully abstract the entire network, both from the branch, from the data center, from all the three cloud providers, and put it on Alkira so that they, on their canvas, we were able to manage all the routing and security requirements and clearly define which one has to go where and optimally define the best path that it can go. One of the best thing that we accomplished is historically our applications teams have challenged us. Hey, my application have gone to the cloud from on-prem to the cloud, which means I've transitioned from a physical on-prem server to a nice EC2 server, which means my availability of my application in the cloud is as equal as what AWS gives us as availability. The challenge the network team faced is, when do you think your availability will match AWS availability? Here we are today. We have taken our availability by adopting Alkira, and because they can run in AWS, Azure, and Google, we were able to match the availability of these hyperscalers into the network. So if the application is running, my network is running. If the application is down, my network is equally down. There is not a day that my service is down, the app is up, and app is up, and vice versa. So we have matched that availability and the expectations of our business by taking our availability to a hyperscaler availability. Now, when we did all of this, our business said, this is great. You were able to improve the latency, you were able to reduce the round trip time, and whatnot happened, and everything came together. Now the worry from the business is, guru, what will happen to the agility? Suddenly you're introducing a new technology, none of us knew about what is this, but you have a super glue in your hand where you can just stick everything together like it. But what will happen to my past automations that I have built inside AWS, inside Azure, inside GCP, inside VMware? How will I handle all of this? That's where we brought this heavy duty rubber band around it. And then we said, you were consuming all of this in the past through Itential. You did not know about it. All I gave you is the nice APIs through ServiceNow platform. You were able to consume all of it. Now we just expanded that rubber band around this entire landscape. And with the partnership, what Alkira and Itential brought together, automating the VPC onboarding, TGW onboarding, security group management, all of these capabilities are built within the heavy duty rubber band. And every component that we discussed within the digital infrastructure landscape, a branch office will have a router, switch, firewall. A data center will have router, switch, firewall, load balancers, and whatnot. And then you can assume the scale of the cloud. So ability to automate the entire network services on this such a large landscape requires a heavy duty rubber band around it to deliver this as a self-service, which gave a great confidence for our business. Oh, now I understand how are you connecting the glue and the rubber band and holding this as a service, which is much more reliable and much more consistent for us. And by doing all of this, what we accomplished is we were able to deliver a new region completely from the ground up in less than 2 days, which used to take 2 months. And we came down from 2 months to 2 days, delivering a completely a new region. We were able to integrate some of the existing SD-WAN solutions that were implemented prior pandemic, because SD-WAN was popular at that time, and every enterprise today have one of the other SD-WAN solutions. So we were able to naturally bring the SD-WAN solutions into the Alkira ecosystem and keep the automation punched through the Itential system. This way, we were able to consistently measure the speed and agility with the business. Then, when we are re-architecting this at scale, our security team said, how are you going to enforce policies? Because I built my SCCM policy in AWS. I have another Terraform policy in Azure, because this is where all built before all these capabilities were in place. So we were able to demonstrate that by building that uniform standards, uniform compliance through Itential, and enforce it consistently in every single components of the digital infrastructure. And on the right side, what you see is how we got it done. And today at S&P Global, think about at enterprises of our scale, where we used to have back in days big Verizon like WAN, AT&T like WAN. Now today we have an ability to replace those some of these big large service providers into enterprise exchanges of Alkiras that runs on a hyperscaler, and then eliminate all the one-off automations into a into our Itential canvas-based automation so that we can keep up with the speed and agility of our business. Over to Chris.
So maybe one question on the how, because we've all provisioned a lot of VPCs, transit gateways, VNets, that kind of stuff. But like, how does this work? Like, how do I coordinate the connectivity between maybe my applications and my regions with these internet exchanges?
I think that's a great question, Chris. Thanks for asking it. I'll go into some details. So what we have done is we have built our own infrastructure, which sits inside the clouds. As Guru mentioned, we leverage AWS, we leverage Azure, we leverage Google Cloud Platform. So our infrastructure is available anywhere where there's a cloud region. So it's globally available, and it's a multi-tenant infrastructure. So now, let's say a customer like S&P Global, they come and they can start building their network on top using our infrastructure, which is always available. So Guru mentioned earlier that availability is like a very, very important factor for companies or large enterprises, because the cloud is pretty much always up. I shouldn't say always up, but it's as available as it could be for right now. And if the cloud is up, then the network needs to be up also. So, but we built this infrastructure in such a way that it's highly available within cloud and across clouds. So we provide disaster recovery across clouds as well from the network infrastructure perspective. We provide horizontal scalability from the infrastructure perspective. And this infrastructure is not just a router sitting in there or something. It's our own cluster of nodes. It's a scalable infrastructure. We keep adding more nodes to add more capacity to the infrastructure, and we onboard customers' network on top of it. So that's how customers are able to leverage the infrastructure to quickly build those networks. And so they build their virtual constructs on top, and we call that virtual construct Cloud Exchange Point. So each customer comes and builds a Cloud Exchange Point leveraging that infrastructure. And now from the Cloud Exchange Point, they can connect any location, on-prem location to it. They can connect any cloud to it. And they can connect any SaaS application to it. So that's the connectivity part. But then there are capabilities of running multiple network and security services on that platform as well. So if you look at these large enterprises, S&P is one of them. They have standardized their security on some large security vendors. So they want to do security in the cloud the same way they've been doing security or managing or running the appliances on-prem as well, and manage those firewalls just the same way. So we allow them to instantiate or run those security appliances inside of this platform. And in fact, what we have done is we have gone an extra step where we optimize the deployment of these services inside of this platform. So before, let's say if they had to deploy X number of firewalls to meet their use cases or requirements, they can deploy many less number of firewalls because we optimize the way we deploy them. We optimize the way the traffic is steered through these firewalls. So they are able to save a lot on the capacity that they need from these services also. And then this infrastructure is global, as I mentioned, so they can spin up a CXP, which is you can think of it as a virtual colo or a virtual POP with all the infrastructure already available to them. So they can bring it up anywhere across the globe. As Guru mentioned, they had to bring up a region, and they instantly brought up this region, which they had to. And since it's a networking platform, so when we built this platform, our focus was that, obviously it's sitting inside the cloud. Multi-cloud networking is one of the biggest use cases for it, but it's a networking platform. So we have to enable this platform to address other use cases as well. So networking use cases. So we have been able to, just because we took a platform approach, we're able to address those use cases as well. And I'll give you examples of like partner connectivity, extranet as a service, where your partners are coming into this platform. They can be global, they can be coming from on-prem locations, they could be coming from the cloud side, and consume services from S&P's network, whether those services are sitting in their data centers or whether they're sitting in their cloud. We can selectively do all of that stuff. Then it's a fully routed platform, which is global. So it also provides full SLA backed high-speed connectivity, fully routed, fully segmented, full mesh connectivity across the globe as well. So some of our customers are leveraging this platform, the global platform for the global connectivity as well, high-speed connectivity. So there are multiple use cases which we have been able to address just because we took the platform approach, and we connect to all these clouds in one way. From a customer's perspective, they just come in and they say that I need like X gig of bandwidth to this VPC or to this VNet, and we make it happen for the customers. We use the underlying construct of ours, underlying constructs of the cloud, but it's one way of doing networking for these customers. And obviously, there's a management and policy layer on top of it, which helps them manage the network, run the network, day two operations, troubleshooting, all of that stuff.
Awesome. And maybe a little content pitch. I think our teams have recorded a few demos showing Itential and Alkira integrated together. And as you said, also integrating with third-party security services with their own management console and building some of those end-to-end services. So all super exciting stuff.
Yeah. So, bringing all this together with the Itential just makes this platform much more powerful, because now for customers, it's one way of doing end-to-end automation. And Alkira is part of it. So automation, as you know, as we've been discussing, and as we know, it has become the key. Network operations have moved to DevOps approaches. So that is the key. So we are very, very happy to be partnering with Itential, and I'm glad we are able to help customers like Guru along the way.
I'll probably add a little bit of context to additional to support the initiative that we are doing. S&P Global is in this multi-year cloud transformation journey. Like I described, we have about 50 on-prem locations. Think about you're a developer, and then you're empowered to choose a provider of your choice, right? You're a developer who built this platform. You might know your app might work in Azure, or app might work in AWS, or app might work in Google, right? Giving that 12-lane highway in order for the developer to take their app where they intend to take and deliver the best outcome is the most powerful use case we were able to accomplish, and that is through the Alkira and Itential partnership. That's number one. We have about hundreds of apps that are yet to be migrated into the cloud, and our Scrum teams and development teams are actively working on moving to this cloud. And that flexible auto scale highway gives them an ability to move fast. Sometimes we come into a conversation with teams who are migrating petabytes of data, saying, listen, we need more bandwidth for the next couple of weeks. I cannot go and tell them in this time and age, give me 90 days, let me order a circuit from somebody else and give it to you, right? With the ability to run Alkira inside the AWS, and AWS is an hyperscaler, we were able to provision the ingress and egress to the maximum capacity that we need. And this highway is fully automated, and we were able to do that. And kudos to both of you, because the technology that both Alkira and Itential built, that agentless architecture, is such a powerful use cases. Today, you take any infrastructure components out there in the market, or most of the security components out there in the market, you need to run some sort of agent in the network in order for them to collect and connect and communicate, right? The agentless architecture of both Alkira and Itential makes our life even more easier, because so that I don't need to worry about I have to connect my mothership to another child ship to mothership, and then you become another on-prem hybrid ecosystem, right? Taking this to fully at a canvas level and abstracting it is the power of both the technologies that we were able to take advantage in our implementation.
Awesome. Maybe Atif, a bit on the company. I know we've spoken more about the specific challenges, but anything you would like to add?
Yeah, definitely a little bit more to it. So many of our users or customers are they have multi-cloud, and not just multi-cloud, but these multi-clouds are in multiple regions as well. So you can think of it like, if they, let's say, if they are in 4 clouds, it's 4 clouds and multiple regions of each cloud. So now all of this needs to come together. So the way we bring all of this together, this diagram basically just gives a high level overview of like how we do it. As I mentioned, it's our infrastructure which is available across the globe, and these CXPs are the constructs, or the virtual constructs, which each customer is able to bring up anywhere using that infrastructure across the globe. And then they're able to connect to any cloud from any of these locations, any on-prem location or user to any of these CXPs as well. So the moment you connect to these CXPs, you have any endpoint to any endpoint connectivity. And just the use cases which we are many of the which we are enabling, obviously on-prem to cloud, inside the cloud, there's a lot of networking that needs to be done inside the cloud as well. So you have to take into consideration, a lot of these things, intricacies of each cloud, which is different from in every cloud. So we can go into those details at some point. Cloud to cloud is a big requirement. In fact, Guru started with this cloud to cloud use case in the beginning between GCP and AWS. So there's a lot of cloud to cloud requirement. Then you need to insert security services in the middle of all of that stuff. And then as I mentioned, it's one way of doing networking across these clouds, one way of securing all these clouds, and then optimizing the deployment of these services, from security services to other networking services. And management is a key, as I keep saying that, because day two operations, you deploy a network once, but you're managing this network every day. So you have to have visibility. You cannot have blind spots. So that capabilities where you have all the visibility in your network, from the flows perspective, traffic perspective, other metrics and latency perspective, where are you having drops and stuff. So those capabilities are as important as anything else. So and one thing I'll just mention, one last thing I'll mention is consumability. We see that networking is moving towards as a service model, because it has to move to as a service model, because it needs to be agile. It needs to be there when you need to connect somewhere, or you need to secure something. So that agility, that flexibility, that large footprint, where you're able to extend this network anywhere across the globe without you having to buy hardware or build it yourself. You should be able to just buy it, consume it, and secure it. It's still your network, but you don't have to worry about the infrastructure. Just like when you bring up a server in EC2 environment, you don't worry about like where the physical server is running. So same thing has to happen with networking, where you shouldn't have to worry about the infrastructure. So that's what we have done. I call it network infrastructure as a service, because it's our infrastructure as a service, but it's your network which is running on top of it.
Just to double click on couple of powerful use cases is historically to kind of connect this hybrid infrastructure. Network teams of the enterprises used to build this physical colos in order to connect a cloud with an on-prem or a branch with a cloud and whatnot, and that colo essentially have become a central heart or life system of keeping everything together. What is a unique thing that we're doing with Alkira is about transforming the physical colo into carrier neutral colos, which runs in the hyperscaler, so that I don't need to keep the lights on in the colo using physical devices. As physical devices, as you run, the availability is a challenge. You have to keep a backup hardware. You have to wait for RMA to come. You have to do a code upgrade and whatnot. Because we are able to transform that physical colos into the virtual carrier neutral facilities in the cloud, and running it on the Alkira, we were able to use a super glue and attach all the hybrid infrastructure and the cloud together. That's one powerful use cases. S&P Global is a data company. At the beginning, we talked about 45,000 customers in 150 countries worldwide, and we are in the business of distributing data with our clients and exchanging data with the clients. And with those many clients, it is not practically possible to run a physical wire to their infrastructure. And because as a client, they are also transforming. As a business, we are also transforming. And Alkira is becoming like a Snowflakes is a place where everybody exchange data. Alkira is becoming like a snowflake of the networking, where they're able to bring the clients, the third parties, and the partner on the platform in a secure way, so that we were able to eliminate this classic partner net infrastructures and then move them on a secure Alkira partner net infrastructure, which still stays in the cloud but fully separated from the core of the network, so that we feel secure, the customer feels secure, and we are still able to distribute data at a cloud speed.
Awesome. So maybe just a little bit on about Itential, in the sense that, we just talked about Alkira's consumable cloud centric networking. My words, not a TIFs, but so the expectation there is that it comes with automation, I think is the point, right? You're not providing boxes and virtual machines here. You're providing automation within your infrastructure, and that's what we expect from modern technologies. So, from an Itential standpoint, when we talk about automating infrastructure, a lot of times we're automating automation, and a lot of times we're automating automation that's embedded with some sort of software or equipment provider, and that's really where the industry is going. So when you look at the automation layer within Itential, we have this adapters integration concept, which allows us to do real-time integration with open API spec platforms like Alkira. And then we also have our automation gateway, which talks to devices that are programmable, like GNMI, NetConf, et cetera. But we also integrate and treat Ansible, Python, Terraform as first-class citizens within the automation gateway. So across that integrated ecosystem, we can talk to all of these things: security platforms, SD-WAN platforms, cloud platforms, et cetera. So the first key to a broad-based automation solution like we're talking about is to be able to integrate with everything and take advantage of all the automation that's coming. We've moved away from the vertically integrated tool-centric world to a world of platforms, and having an automation and orchestration platform to tie these things together, we think, is quite critical. So after we have that automation in place, it's really about, as Guru mentioned, the low-code canvas, but tying these things together and making it very simple for more people to participate in automation. We can't have all the tickets go to a group of people in the corner to do all the automation for the whole business. Automation is how we operate the network. We think it's the operational paradigm of networking moving forward. So really tying all these things together under an orchestrated umbrella is very important. But at the same time, we also have to make sure we're doing validation, and we're adhering to the business rules that we've put in there. So, Automation Studio is how we build automations. Config Manager is how we put validation in place to make sure we have some guardrails to our automation. And ultimately, what you've heard a lot from us lately is, how do we self-serve this? More and more customers are asking, how do I have my end user actually request automation rather than me swivel chairing and doing it myself? We're moving from a world where automation is built for me to do my job better, for me to build automation for others to take advantage of. We're usually asking people, who is the ultimate user of this automation, because we need to meet them where they're at. So when we think of our primary consumers of automation and orchestration, it's really divided into, in the enterprise market. The first is platforms in the IT space. So it could be a ServiceNow. That's what we talked about today. We've even published an app in there to make it super easy. There's also Salesforce. A lot of times, if network services are viewed as part of the CRM, and that's one side. And the other side is really line of business apps. So we kind of IT, quote unquote, people requesting infrastructure. It might be day two, it might be maintenance activities, or it might be line of business owners. And they generally, application teams, generally want to talk in the realm of APIs and pipelines. So we need to really expose these automation and orchestration. If we build an automation and nobody uses it, it's only of limited use. We're using it for ourselves, but we're highly interested in how do we expose these automations for our customers to use, so they can view our operational paradigm similar to what they've been trained with SaaS providers and public cloud personas.
Chris, maybe a question here, right? Network team at S&P Global, we serve about 6 business unit or thousands of developers in a day. Uh, as software development world have significantly advanced in the CI/CD world, and today the network and network automations is equally advanced, and we have a chair in the room to compete against them to provide them a service. What's new in the room is, hey, there's something called Backstage from Spotify, and that's going to be the new developer enablement platform that we would like to consume. And then the ask from them is, how can you integrate or interoperate to make the developer experience not just consume network service in a separate compartment, but they would like to consume middleware, storage, server, all the code things into the thing. So if you can provide that IDP as an experience, that'll be useful.
Yeah. So where we think we're going with the industry is one of platforms, and a lot of people put it under the platform engineering umbrella. The challenge, as it's stated, because a lot of times, especially even on this call, we talk about, we're talking about infrastructure out, right? We're really thinking about infrastructure out. If you're thinking application in, and you're an application developer, sometimes you're like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to use, how I'm supposed to use it, what I'm allowed to do. Line of business teams for a long time swiped credit cards, used cloud and other services as they saw fit. Most CIOs are saying, we want you to use all those great services, but we would like to standardize those a little bit. We'd like to have a tailored, S&P Global opinionated set of services versus just whatever's out there, right? So that people are starting to assign product managers to their platform team. So you can look at connectivity as a product you're offering your application owners. And ultimately, we need to talk to application developers in the manner of which they're used to. So IDP, internal development platform, is really the thought where application teams can go look at what's available. Kind of think of it like a console. And from an Itential standpoint, we want to publish our APIs. You can publish them as you see fit. You can customize the routes. So we can publish that to the application team so they can understand how to consume this network. And also there's a level of abstraction in there so that you can change, you talk about constantly changing some of your infrastructure, but we don't want that to ripple up to our application team. So providing those as APIs really allows us to be innovative at the infrastructure level, but also communicate to application teams as they see fit. And, I think the biggest concern / issue they see is that they spend a lot of time trying to figure out what they're allowed to do, how they're allowed to do it. And you don't want to get to build time and have the wrong set of services. So us, publish these in a more platform engineering concept is going to be a huge kind of leap forward as an industry. And I think that's what a lot of us are converging on. So excited to continue to talk about that for sure.
I think that's very well said. Just to add a couple of perspectives there on the Itential. Many years ago, when we first started designing the strategy around DevOps and Net DevOps, Chris and I met, and we had a great conversation around. We have two choices in hand: one, build your own team, do this end to end, or here is a partnership with Alkira. We made a very bold move of partnering with Itential, and we were able to bring in the full suite of network automation inside Itential, because they today have integrations with over 100 different networking technologies, and we were able to bolt all of them at rapid speed. I think the vision that we carry forward with the Itential team, and we wrote a great white paper together explaining it to S&P Global business and business CTOs, what this means to them, right? And they appreciated a lot about the vision of low code, no code 2-3 years ago, and we were able to produce that output in real time today. And second biggest thing is one of the very recent use cases that we delivered in partnership with Itential is today the scale at which the digital infrastructure is expanding, and now we're introducing Alkira and many other things. Security team wanted to handle security events and bad actors instantly. We were able to develop or abstract the SOAR automation out of a SOAR platform and bring that intelligence on top of Itential platform, so that today any SOAR platform in the market, they are just providing a payload to Itential, and Itential is able to translate that payload. A payload could be a domain name, or payload could be a bad IP addresses. So they were able to absorb the payload from any SOAR platform such as Phantom or D3 or anything out there in the market and translate that one payload into 100 different understandable variables and pass it to different technologies within the digital infrastructure. They were able to take the payload and process it on a proxy, process it on a firewall, process it on an info blocks, on Akamai, whatnot technologies within the digital infrastructure. Itential is able to translate the payload and apply it instantly. Today, we have a capability that if you give us an IOC IP address, we will be able to use Itential and block the IP addresses within the network in matter of seconds, and we do that actively. This way, we enable and empower our frontline cyber defense SOC team to action it immediately instead of putting a ticket and waiting for somebody in the network team to act upon it. That's some of those powerful use cases we are working in partnership with Itential.
That's awesome. I appreciate it. It's a great use case. Maybe just to explain a little bit behind that is the sense that we talk about infrastructure being programmable. That's as a company who tries to automate and orchestrate infrastructure at scale every day. That's how we think. There's been different attempts to standardize APIs and standardize payloads. Take SD-WAN, so much innovation so quickly, no standards. So, as we get into advice for those that have hung on with us, I would say that, what we've learned in these use cases, like Guru was talking about, integrating lots of systems, is that people don't agree on payloads. People don't agree how to describe interfaces. I mean, look at the public cloud providers, VPCs and VNets, different APIs, different payloads. But everybody uses them, right? Because they're well described. They're well described with payloads. So from an Itential standpoint, it's not about trying to get everybody to agree on a handful of constructs, because we think innovation cycles are accelerating, right? So we're going to see more software-based infrastructure. Cloud providers are launching hundreds of services every year. Folks like Alkira are innovating at a huge clip. So what we need those APIs to be programmable and described, which makes it so we can automate this. And since we're not going to agree on payloads, we have to be able to do data transformation at runtime. And Guru, that's what you're describing, right? So we can understand how info blocks or somebody else describes an interface, and then we can automatically do schema transformation on that. So there's all sorts of great technologies available for modern infrastructure. And I think, like I said before, one of hope here is that folks that are running scripts and doing some basic automation, all automation is great. But when we start to put multiple systems together in multiple domains, there's some additional techniques that allow us to really do this, and it's available today. But maybe as we get into advice for those that are still here with us, maybe talk about some of the things you've seen, Atif.
So we see that some of our customers are predominantly in one cloud, but they're leveraging other clouds now for different reasons. And it's actually the business that drives the adoption of the cloud, because there are certain business needs which drive that. So I always say that if you're in just one cloud, you're one use case away from becoming multi-cloud, or one acquisition away in some cases to become multi-cloud. So planning for multi-cloud types of environments or deployments is now has become like a must for large enterprises. And what the other thing we are seeing is that, as we say on this slide, on-demand networks available as a service consumption models, networks as a service, which are available, which are agile, which are flexible, and available on demand across the globe. So that is the key going forward. And that is what we are seeing with large enterprises, mid-sized enterprises, in fact, across the board.
Awesome. And Guru, with some of your peer group listening, what sort of advice do you hand out?
One of the key thing is, when we decide to transform or when we decide to innovate, in the past, the mindset used to be, let me first take everything to the cloud and I'll automate later, or I'll automate first and then I'll take it to the cloud. you cannot gamify this. You have to transform both at the same time at a rapid speed, because both of them yields to each other. If you can transform to the cloud, but if you cannot automate, you will lose security and agility. If you have automated everything, but if you don't go to the cloud, you will have the other challenges of the business as well. So the at S&P Global, we were able to see both sides of the coin at the same time. Going to the cloud is a business driver. Delivering agility is our internal driver, and we were able to take both sides of the coin, put the right tools and right capabilities around it, and take that innovation to the next stage. That's a number one. Number two is in the past, either partners like yourselves waited for enterprises to come with problem statements, or enterprises like us waited for partners like you to come with world-class solutions. I think we are today living in a world where both enterprises and the partners have to work together, try to solve the problems together, and continue to co-innovate. That accelerates innovation, that accelerates solving more and more use cases, that brings in modern capability to the market, so that we can take the network to completely a next level.
Yeah, and as you guys said, the common theme here is thinking about our end consumer, this application developer or this end user. They want the cloud that they want, like Atif said. We have to orchestrate this together, and there's no operational model that's going to meet them where they're at without aggressive automation and orchestration. So I'll end there. I wanted to thank you both for joining us today, Atif and Guru. Thank you very much. To those that are on the call, thank you for attending. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.